I think we are live. Just give 1 minute time for. Okay, we are live. We are live. We are live. Okay. Hey guys, uh, good evening, and thank you so much for joining today. And this is our meetup group. It's .NET Learners House, and we are planning to do 1 to 2 sessions every month. And this is the first event from our group, meetup group, and we are open for suggestions or what kind of sessions you guys want to want us to play. And if you have any specific content, please feel free to let us know. And please join this meetup group so that you will get intimated with all those future events, whatever we are coming up with. And any questions or queries, if you are unable to answer in this due to lack of time or something, please feel free to go and post it over here, where we can go and see this, where we can go and see the queries, and we'll get back to you on this. Please feel free to type your queries. And today we have 2 sessions, and we have piled up. We have planned for entire 2021. Totally of 12 to 15 events are there, and it can be more based on the number of users or you guys requesting few different events. Will start those events also. So at least till Jan, Feb, and March we have in plan, and we might inject 1 or 2 in between. And today we are going to have 2 sessions. One is on Azure Bastion, secure access to Azure VM using Azure Bastion. That's the speaker of that session is Mohit Chabra, and Web API in .NET 5. That's I'm going to talk on that session. And Mohit is a speaker since a few years, and is a Microsoft MVP. And let me introduce Mohit. Uh, hey Mohit, good
Hey
evening.
Swami, good
Thank you.
evening.
Thank you so much for joining, Mohit. I really appreciate that. To you, Mohit.
Thank you Swami for the warm introduction and thank you for introducing all of us to the group. It's and I just want to start with a thank you not for all the attendees that we have because it takes a lot of effort to pick yourself up on a Saturday afternoon and then start learning something, especially in the holiday season, right? So all of us are in a relaxing mood, but there are some super champs over here who still wants to learn and then improve their skill sets. So I think it's a great effort from all of you guys. You are superstars, you are heroes from the IT industry. A big round of applause for all of you. So today I am going to speak about Azure Bastion. Before I do, I'm going to share my screen. Swami, can you please put my screen on the stream?
Yes, Mohit.
Can you can you change the view, please? Put me on the side, and then my screen should be. That's perfect. Thank you. So can you make my screen bigger than what it is right now? That's perfect. Yeah. So thank you, Swami, for setting up this stream. And guys, my name is Mohit Chhabra. I work for a company called Configured Gmbh. It's is location in Germany. Its headquarters is in Copenhagen, but I work from the Germany office. I'm a Microsoft Azure MVP. So I basically present all of things on Microsoft. So I've been working with Azure since last almost 7 years, 8 years. And I was one of the early adopters of Azure who started working on Azure when it was in the phase one or the classic Azure phase, when we have like limited set of services and it was not a gorilla that it is right now. But during this journey of last 7 to 8 years, I've seen that Azure has grown massively, and one of the issues that I face is to keep myself updated. And events like these basically help me as well to get updated with different addition or different upgrades that is happening in the Azure world. Because if I am presenting on something, I have to keep myself updated on that topic as well. Also, when I join this event and I get a chance to hear other speakers, which basically helps me to upgrade my skill sets, because I cannot take care of everything in the world. And Azure is such a big universe right now. I cannot even say the word. It's a universe in itself. So it's a great opportunity, and I think it's a great idea that you guys are joining today. And I hope by end of the day you will be able to understand something and then make something out of it. I blog on a site called azureguy.in, so feel free to check it out. I am guilty of not updating it quite frequently, to be honest, but I will try to be more frequent going forward. That's something I've been saying. If you knows me, if you have attended my session before that, and then you will know that the words I'm saying is a lie, because I've been saying this from last couple of years to myself and all of my attendees that I am going to be more frequent on my blog. It's not happening. I am not a kind of guy who loves to blog, but this is something that I have to improve on. Also, if you want to reach out to me, if you have any questions, if you have any queries, if you have any feedback, or just want to connect with me for some reason, then I'm available on Mohit_techie on my Twitter handle. So going forward today, I'm going to talk about how you can secure your VMSs with Azure Bastion. So let's see what is Azure Bastion. So we are going to talk about few things. What is the program? What are the different solutions? And what is the best solution, of course. So depends. The best solution also depends upon the multiple factors, and we're going to discuss on that for sure as well. So what is the VM administrator program? So what happens is now we have Azure where we are using infrastructure as a service. Now security in Azure is a shared responsibility. When I say it's a shared responsibility, it's a shared responsibility between Microsoft or any other cloud provider and the consumer. Here, the users or the consumers are us. So, when it comes to security, it's a shared responsibility. Microsoft takes care of the security of the hardware of the network, but when I say network, I only means putting up the wires in the servers, and not the actual networking, the virtual networking associated with it. So it's on the shoulder of us as well. How do we design our infrastructure? How do we make sure that our infrastructure is secure? How do we make sure that there are no hackers or there are no unwanted people getting into the infrastructure and then grabbing all the important data from us? So it's our responsibility to design an infrastructure which is secure. And most of us have hosting stuff on IaaS. I think most of you might be hosting on PaaS, but most of you might be heavily using IaaS as well. So when I say IaaS, I mostly means VMs for today's scenario. So what is the program? What is the program around it? We have been talking about security, but what is the program around security? So you need to basically manage your VMs running in Azure, and there are different options or different ways to do it. You have your different data center. It can be your web app can be hosted in two different data centers on the same different centers, and then you have different tiers of application running in a VM, running it in a SQL, or it might be using some sort of pass as well. But we are just going to say that okay, you are hosting your applications on Azure virtual machines. So what happens is this virtual machine over here is vulnerable. How it's vulnerable? Because most of us, we do in order to connect to these virtual machines, we open ports like 3389 on TCP, which is traditionally used for RDP purposes. Or if it's a Linux VM, we open the TCP 22, which is traditionally used for SSH. We have the option of overriding these ports as well and then port it to any another port, but still the idea of RDPing into our virtual machines stays the same. And there are different ways of RDPing or SSH into the virtual machine as well. But the thing is, we have to manage all of this. We have to manage this RDP settings, and we have to manage this to make sure that okay, this RDP sessions are secured, and and the same is the case with the SSH as well. Also, we have to prevent breaches. So what are breaches? There are a lot of people like man in the middle. There are a lot of hackers who can try to get into the system, and they can put a port scan into the application. What happens with the port scan? So what happens with port scan is it's a tool which you can put inside your infrastructure and then see which all ports are open. That makes it easier for other people to to basically get into the system. For example, if you keep your RDP open and then you keep it on 3389, then most of the hackers knows that's the RDP port, and you might have it open. So that would be their first ideal choice of breaking into the system, to try with 3389. But if you are not using 3389 and have it overridden with some other port, for example 6283, then they need basically some sort of tools to identify that you're using 6383, whatever port you're using, right? So in that case, what happens is we can use something called port scan, or they can also start a brute force attack on it. What is a brute force attack, if you may ask? Brute force attack is nothing but when you're trying to send a lot of traffic to a server where it's no longer able to take it anymore, because every server has some sort of capacity. And then in this brute force attack is you basically try to guess with all the ports, try to basically get into the system with random numbers, and then hoping that okay, one time you will be succeeding. And now we have all the tools, all the computing power in the world to have organize our big brute force attack onto the system. So they and this is basically one of the big issues that we have to tackle. But how do we tackle this kind of issues? Of course, there are different options around it. There are different architecture that people have come up with over the period of years, because the program that I'm talking is not as isolated to Azure or isolated to cloud. This is a common program that's been there since we have internet. So what are the common ideologies or common architecture that people basically follows to fix this kind of issues, and what is there in Azure for fixing this kind of issue? So let's say if you have a hybrid cloud kind of setup, then what happens is you can have a site-to-site VPN connection from your own premises setup to the Azure. Now, with the help of this virtual network gateway, you can connect to the virtual machines present in the Azure. But what happens over here is you have to set up this gateway, you have to manage the gateway, and it's again, if you're a small company, it's a big hassle for setting up this site-to-site VPN and then manage all of this stuff yourself. If again, some of your misconfiguration here can end up in breaching your internet as well. So another option is a space route. If you know what is a space route, or space route is basically one of the connection that you have on-board connection, or you can say complete site-to-site express connection from your on-premises data center to your Azure. It's very expensive for sure, and not all of us will be able to afford it. Again, this is one of the scenarios that you can use if you have a direct cable connected from your data center to Azure data center. It's going to be secure because uh, it's not flowing to internet. It's basically flowing to one network to another network, which is directly connected. But it's not ideal for most of us, and it's not feasible to have this kind of setup for majority of the companies as well. What is the another issue? This is one issue that I think a lot of you might have seen. Whenever you create an Azure VM, it comes up with pip. And what is pip? Pip is nothing but public IP addresses. What is public IP address? That means an IP address which is accessible through internet. So every VM here basically will have a public IP address by default. If you basically go to the wizard of creating a VM from Azure, it will have some associated public IP address that you can just let me go back to the right screen. Sorry about that. So if you connect to this public IP address, then you can connect it from your own machine from anywhere, and then you can directly go into this machine if you have the right username and password, of course. But this is also one of the big issues that we have seen, that public IP address let anyone in the world to connect to your virtual machines. And when I say anyone in the world to connect, that means, of course, they need to have user base authentication to get into the system, but at least they're in the system. They can attempt to connect as well. And when you can attempt to connect, then you're already breaching the first level of security. Ideally, we should not allow anyone to basically be able to connect to this as well. There was another option of using NAT to as your load balancer. I am personally not a fan of this. I'm going to tell you what it is. You can put a load balancer in front of your Azure VMs, and then you can have a hub and a spoke VNet. If you are not familiar with what is hub and spoke, I'm not going to go into deep of that. But it's a network terminology in short, and then this is the design that comes with networking. But I'm not going to go inside that and then explain on what is hub and spoke architecture. But it's basically security to obscurity. It's more of a hack, if you ask me. You can basically do a netting to your Azure load balancer, and with that netting, you can basically get into your system. Sure, it's possible, but I personally think it's more of a hack. It's not a appropriate solution, and you should avoid it. And this is personally my point of view. There might be people who can challenge me on this, and I will be happy to discuss this kind of scenario with other people and then see their point of view as well. But I personally think that this is not a clean solution that you should deprive your production infrastructure on. What are the other option is one of the most common we use option, which is also known as jump box. I know if you have ever worked on some sort of infrastructure before, you know that you have this jump box where you connect to this jump box from your own machine, and then basically uh, then from the jump box you connect to the actual VMs. So it's like adding a level of security to your actual infrastructure. What happens is you connect to this jump box, then you authenticate yourself to this jump box, and then you authenticate yourself to uh, the whole infrastructure in Azure. So the idea behind this is that there is an added layer of security around your infrastructure. So the hacker basically have to breach two layer of security, and then there is no public IP associated with any of this infrastructure which is in Azure. Apart from this jump box, this jump box will have a public IP due to which we will be able to connect to it. But all these VMs, which is used for different purposes in our application, it has only private IP. And because this jump box and all of our VMs are in the same virtual network, this jump box will be able to communicate with all of these in here. So what is good about this? Good, it's a clean architecture, it's a better architecture for sure. It's been one of the most common we use architecture as well, and I personally don't have anything negative uh, about this architecture apart from one big thing, and that's management. In When we say we are using infrastructure as a code, that means we have to manage a lot of stuff ourselves, and that also includes managing this jump box. And this makes it more and more difficult to manage it because we have a public IP address associated with it. So Of course, the way you are treating the other servers, it's not the same that you have to treat the jump box. So you have to be extra careful about this jump box because this is our point of breach in the infrastructure. This is our weakest link in the infrastructure because we have a public IP associated with it, and we need to put a public IP to it. There is no other option. Or the other option is basically you connect it with a VPN setup for sure. That's also possible, and in that case you are connected with the same virtual network, and then you can have a private IP, and then you can basically connect to a private IP to it. But the issue of this jump box is that it is secured, but this jump box is not itself very secure. So you have to manage the security around it. You have to take care of all the updates. You have to take care of all the backups, troubleshooting, whatever is associated with managing a VM. You have to take care of it. It's only adding to the burden of you. So, and then the idea behind cloud is to make sure that, okay, I personally believe that if we are using cloud, I like to delegate more responsibilities to Microsoft as compared to taking more responsibilities on my shoulder, uh, so that I can focus on my business application instead of focusing on the things that I am not an expert on, and give it the more crucial task to an expert. Of course, when I'm talking about IAS, that's not the case as well, but at least try to give the tedious part of this whole architecture to someone who knows how to do it in the best way. And that's the idea behind Azure Bastion. And Azure Bastion is nothing, basically we have this jump box which is managed by Microsoft. So we had a program, we got different solutions. Microsoft identified the best solution, which is jump box, and they identified, okay, the issues associated with the jump box as well, so that we have the cleanest solution possible around it. And we have the service called Azure Bastion for it. So what is Azure Bastion? Azure Bastion is nothing but, as I told you, it's a managed jump box. What do you mean by manage? I With manage, I mean that you don't have to create a virtual machine like the jump box and that you were doing it in your previous infrastructure. You just have to associate this Azure Bastion jump box or whatever you can call it to the virtual network associated with your virtual machines. And then there is behind the scene maybe a remote network desktop service is running, and then they are managing it through some way. But you don't have to worry about how they are managing it. It's something that it's hidden from you. And I personally don't know whether they are using the remote desktop gateway or RDS or whatever they're using. And I don't care. I don't have to care. That's the best part about it because it's a managed service. I am only paying for uh, this Azure passing, and then it's taking a lot of responsibilities off from my shoulder. And how does it work? For sure, I'm going to tell you now. So you connect to your Azure portal, and this Azure portal is safe with the it's basically secured with TLS. It's using TLS 1.2, 1.3. So, and now you connect to this Azure portal using your internet. You have your credentials. You can have MFAs on your Azure AD credentials, which is basically you can, in order to get into your Azure portal, you have to go through MFA, which is another way of security for sure. Then you have to set up this Azure Bastion subnet. So your point of communication from Azure portal would be this Azure Bastion subnet. And then this internally will have the communication to the Azure VMs. If you see this diagram, the Azure Bastion subnet and the other VMs are part of the same virtual network, but it's is Azure Bastion subnet and the target VM subnets are different. So it's a part of the same virtual network, but different subnets. So this subnet is exposed to internet. This Azure Bastion will again have a private IP. We had the same private IP in Jumpbox as well. So we will have the same private IP, sorry, the public IP in Azure Bastion as well, but this time it will be managed. It will be secured. All this security around this will be taken care by Microsoft for you. So you don't have to worry about securing your access Only thing is you have to make sure that you're using a safe or a hard password as well. It's your responsibility to uh, use the safe passwords to connect to virtual Azure VMs. If you're putting a password like PASS@WRD, it's not safe, right? Hello 123, it's not safe, right? So even after using this, it's again going to be a shared responsibility between the users and the Microsoft. But the responsibility of managing one important piece of infrastructure is given to Microsoft. But again, you have to make sure that you are taking care of the security from your point or your end as well. So if you see this picture, it is very similar to what we saw in our mm, previous diagram. So it's here we have the jump box and then we have different virtual networks. Similarly, this jump box was working in because it was in the same virtual network, was able to talk to different VMs. It's the same over here. So here, the Azure Bastion is is basically connected in the same virtual network, and this is basically be able to this way it's basically be able to connect to this Azure VMs. Now, what happens is in this kind of scenario, only the port 443, which is HTTPS, which is the most secured way of accessing any website or anything on the internet, is exposed to the internet. So this is never exposed. This never have a public IP. These Azure VMs over here, but this guy over here has a public IP, but it's only the HTTPS is exposed to the internet. The RDP or SSSing into these machines is only possible through Azure Bastion. You cannot directly connect to these virtual machines through any other infrastructure. That means you only the authenticated people who are able to get into the Azure portal, and then they have the access to Azure Bastion. Then they will be able to connect to these virtual machines, which makes it much more secure than what we had previously. There is another option apart from Azure Bastion, which is JIT. What is JIT? JIT is just in time access. What is just in time means? As the name suggests that you are only giving an access to someone for a specific period of time. That means if I say I have to make some changes in the system, you can assign this RTP port, and then you can even assign my IP address. That okay, only the people who are accessing this VM through this IP address should be able to access this VM for a specific time. For example, I know that I'm going to use it for a couple of hours to make any updates, make any changes. Then after this 2 hours, the access will be automatically revoked from me. So what is the difference between JIT and Azure Basting? It's I would say both of them are quite similar. It's like complementary to each other. It's not you can use either or all. Both of them are a secure way of accessing. But JIT, you have to use Azure Security Center, and if you're not using that, then I think Azure Basting is the way to go for you. And for Boston, it's quite similar. You basically go to Boston, and then you can say that you only allow from a specific IP address or a specific IP address range, and then those people only will be able to access it. So I'm going to talk about this VNet peering. How does it work? But before that, I'm going to show a demo on how does this Azure Bastion looks like and how can you secure your infrastructure with Azure Bastion. So let me go to Azure portal. Let me bring this guy over here. I hope you guys are able to see my screen. Where is my cursor? Portal.azure.com. So I've been authenticated to Azure portal. That means the first level of security has been done. So I've been authenticated to my AD account. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a new resource. I'm just going to create a new virtual machine. So .NET Runner demo .NET Bastion demo. Let me put it in East US. I don't need any redundancy. It's just a demo machine. I'm fine with a small machine right now. Put in a password. Password is not matching. Let me see. Okay, I need to re-put this password, but because I think I had a typo over here. Sorry about that. Okay, perfect. So I am not going to make any changes to it right now. I'm going to basically go with the flow and showcase you what happens when you create a virtual machine in a normal scenario, and then how you can go ahead and implement Bastion and then secure your VM infrastructure on an existing virtual machine as well. So disk, I'm not going to make any changes over here in the networking. I'm going to continue with the public IP address and all that stuff because I want to just showcase to you, because most of us what we do is we don't even go to these tabs. We just go to basic, pulling information that is required, and then we click on this review and create. This is what I'm going to do right now to replicate those kind of scenarios for us. So right now I'm ideally dealing with the worst case scenario, but I hope that you don't do this when you are creating a production based virtual machine. You basically go through these tabs and then you know what exactly you're doing, putting it inside a virtual network, and then have some sort, and don't put any public IP addresses on it on the in the first place. But sure, the idea is basically to go through the worst case scenario, the not the sunny day path, and then showcase you how do we do it, how do we recover it from there. So it's going to take a couple of minutes before this deployment is complete. Let's wait for it. And it's already completed. So we have a new virtual machine right now. How do we connect to this virtual machine? I have this public IP address associated with it. It's I can also connect. I can also associate a DNS name to it. But what we do is we go over here, RDP. We download this RDP file, and then I get this option. I connect to it, and more choices. See, I am able to connect to this virtual machine, which is how most of you or some of you might be connecting it to. And the issue over here is this guy. If you see this, this is a public IP address. That means right now you guys can see this IP address and you can try to get into the system as well. You were seeing the screen, so you already know my username as well, right? Uh, and it's not safe. It's not safe. So I'm going to close this guy and then we'll see how do we secure it. So first thing first, I will go back to this machine. What are the different things associated with it. One is this private IP, this public IP address. So I will go there. I will go to this IP address overview and disassociate. I don't need this IP address to be associated with my virtual machine because it's a public IP address and which is not safe. Once this is done, I will not be able to see this public IP address over here. That means I will not have no way to connect to my machine, which is also an issue. Let me see if it's done. If still taking some time. Uh, Apparently, removing the IP address from a virtual machine takes more time than creating the whole virtual machine itself, which is strange. But yeah, this is the way it is right now. Let me refresh this guy to see. See now, this public IP address is gone, and then I cannot associate the DNS as well to it because it does not have a public IP address to be associated with. So what we do is now we need a way to basically connect to this virtual machine. So what I do is I go over here in the operations section. We have this option of Bastion. Other ways, basically, you just go here and then search for Bastion and create a new Bastion host. From here, it's basically the same thing. You can create a new one from here, and then, or you can just create directly from the VM properties as well. The only difference is that if you create it from here, you already get the right VNet that you need to be associated with. Otherwise, you need to see the name of this VNet and then make sure that you're using the same one. Now, you need to name your Bastion. The rule of the thumb is basically this is a generated name for me, which is also the correct name that I want to keep it with. It's the virtual network name. This is my virtual network name hyphen Bastion. This is the name of my Bastion host. So I can create a new public IP address. There will be the name of the IP address. Remember, I told you that this Bastion account has to be connected to Azure, to a public IP address. And but I'm getting an error over here. What is it? So if you remember the diagram, we said that this Azure passing has to be in a different subnet, but in the same virtual network, but not in the same virtual network that you are in right now. Means not in the same virtual network you are in, but not in the same subnet that you are in right now. So I have to create this Azure passing subnet. I haven't tried with the casing. I'm not sure whether it's case sensitive or not, but the doc says it or the auto generated name says it that A, B, and S should be capital over here. So I will go to the manage part. I am going to add some of the address spaces over here. 10 dot, oops, what is happening? 10.0.9.0 slash 4. So I took 256 address spaces for this. I just want to keep this address space for my virtual machines. I added some address spaces for my Parson. It's started with 10.0.9.0. Wait, let me save this guy. If I go back to subnets, now I have to create a subnet over here for Boston. It has to be called as your Boston subnet. You cannot name it as your Boston subnet. Yay, 123, blah blah blah. No, it will not work. Uh, it has to be called Azure Bastion subnet. So internally, Azure knows that this subnet is associated with Bastion, and then they do a lot of security or ruins of this subnet accordingly. So the documentation says that this subnet should at least be /27, which means 27 IP address plus 5 for reserved Azure addresses. So it should have 32 addresses minimum. You can have it more as well, but the ideally it should minimum needs this number of IP addresses. So whenever you are designing your infrastructure in a way that you have enough room for this Azure passing as well. This is one of the issues that I got into recently, that I had to design an infrastructure where I didn't have enough IP addresses to use of to basically put as your Bastion. So then I have to do a lot of work to make sure that I get those IP addresses, and then design my infrastructure with some sort of VNet peering that I'm going to talk to you about in after this demo, which is a feature that is in preview right now, but definitely helped me to solve one of the biggest issue I was facing with Bastion. You can associate it with the different NSGs, or you can have some sort of routing table in it. If you know about service endpoint, it basically allows some of the resources from Azure to communicate with it. So you can say that, okay, the keyword should be able to communicate, the SQL or web or the storage account should be able to communicate. So you can check them out over here. But for us, it's not any case right now, so I'm just going to say click on save. For Bastion, it's not required. So now it's been added over here. If you see this been added, so I will go back to my over here. Now this error is gone because we have created this subnet. Previously, we were getting an error that this Azure Bastion subnet is not available in this virtual network. We have fixed this issue. Everything else is okay because it's the right substation, right location, and all that stuff. So I will click on create. Let's wait for a minute for this to complete. And apparently, creating a Bastion takes much more time than creating a virtual machine. S- Same as with the IP address, but this takes actually much more time. Behind the scenes, they're taking a lot of stuff for you, so it's quite good that you're spending like a couple of minutes to wait for it. But behind the scenes, there's a lot of magic that is happening, and that is going to save you a lot of time going forward. So I think it's worth the wait to wait for it to deploy Bastion for a couple of minutes. What I'm going to do till now, I'm going to open another stuff over here and then show you some settings meanwhile in the Azure Bastion that we have. I go to Bastions. I have different Bastion, the Bastion subnet, which is a long name apparently. But over here, if someone is connected, you can see the sessions over here. If four people are connected to machines, you can see all those sessions over here. Uh, so it's basically gives you a facility to audit that who was changing or who was inside your infrastructure from what time to what time. You can see the username associated with it. You see what how they're connected, and then what was the start time of it, and it's makes your life easier to audit it when things went wrong. You you can also export this template and then deploy it with infrastructure as a code. I hope most of you are familiar with infrastructure as a code. The idea beside infrastructure as a code is quite simple, that we configure everything. We configure our infrastructure in a way that we have uniformity across multiple environments. So we code it instead of configuring it manually. So all the configuration basically goes as a part of your code. For example, this, and then it's easier to replicate it to across multiple environments to have uniformity across infrastructure. Let me see if it's done. If still taking some time for the deployment, but I'm fan of this sessions because it helps me in auditing the my infrastructure. Who was assessing this virtual machine from what time to what time, and then what they do. One of the things that I wanted to talk about in my next few slides, but I can tell you right now is another feature that is coming in Azure Bastion. That is, you will be able to record all of the stuff that you're doing inside your virtual machines as well. Uh, so it's basically makes your life much more easier if you are in DevOps, if you are from operations, then you can go to this recording, video recording, and see changes you made, what changes you made in your infrastructure that started causing some issues, for example. And when it comes, it's going to make your life much more easier because you can quickly see, okay, I made these changes. Oh, this is the thing which caused the issue. Revert it back so that your infrastructure is back ASAP. So it's made your life as an system administrator, as an operations, as a DevOps person, much more easier because we personally know that a simple configuration change can also cause a lot of issues, and then you will not realize that okay, you have made this setting change, and then boom, you stuck in an issue for hours. So it's only going to help you out as a system admin, as a DevOps, as an operations engineer. So coming back over here, this is still creating. So what we can do instead is run it like a cookery show. So what happens in a cookery show? In a cookery show, the cook basically, the chef basically shows you that okay, these are the potatoes. Once you mash the potatoes, so you put it in the oven, and then next second you see that the potatoes are baked. So we are going to do the same for this demo because this is taking a lot of time, and then oh, it's done. So I don't have to basically go to another one and showcase it to you. But because this deployment is completed as well, but the idea was simple that I have the backup as your Boston service ready, just in case that takes more time. I can showcase it to you. How does it look like and how does it work? But the good thing is that we were able to deploy it right in time before this. We go to the new one. So let me go back here. It's in another subsystem. So this guy, you can see sessions, but now I have to connect to it. So let me go back. Let me go back to my virtual machine. This is my virtual machine. I will go to connect, or I can go to Bastion as well. It's the same thing. Here, if you go to the RTP right now, you can see that okay, there is only private IP address. There is no. I can download the file, but I cannot access it. I can showcase it to you. I download this file. I am trying to access it. If you see, the IP address is 10.0.2.4, which is an internal IP, which is a private IP here. If I try to connect to it over here, I won't be able to because my machine, which I'm using right now, is not part of the same network. So this should basically fill. So I got this error over here that I cannot connect to it. And I know the reason why I cannot connect to it, which makes sense as well because this is a private IP and then my machine is not part of the same network. So what we do is we go to Bastion, we say use Bastion. So here I give my username and password. Hmm. So here, what happens is I clicked on this checkbox which say open it in a new window, and I'm getting a notification, third message unreachable. I think I gave the wrong password. That's the issue. Let me. Okay, I think this is again a password issue. Yep, now it works. I had my password wrong a couple of times, but if you see now, I'm able to connect to this virtual machine. How I'm connected to it? Uh, I'm connected to it using HTTPS. So it's a secured connection. I'm connected to it with HTTPS, and I'm connected it with a browser. So now everything this is happening is beside in a browser. So what is the compatibility browser that you need? Uh, so you need any HTML5 based browser, which is most of us like are using right now. I don't think that anyone is using IE6 or 7 at this moment. If you are using that, good luck. So this is the idea. Then you can basically work on a machine. You come here, and then if you close it down, then you have to connect it again. I close it down, I have to connect it again, and all that stuff, which makes your life so much easier. And this, coming back to my slides, so this is the demo that we have. Now what we did is basically we connected to Azure Bastion using HTTPS and open it in a browser. What we have over there is there are few limitations as well. Like it's not a full desktop experience for you, at least not right now. It's in the pipeline that you can basically download the RDP for passing from here, and then get inside while you are doing an RDP session right now. It's in the it will try the just in time access for you. So it's in the pipeline but not yet available. I don't have a timeline when it's going to be available publicly, but I hope it's. I'm pretty sure that the Azure Boston team is working hard to make it live as soon as possible. Also, the issue is that one of the issues with this Boston currently is that you cannot copy your files. I can show it to you. If I go to Boston and then try to connect to it again, I can copy test over here. I can copy test cut out with embassy web here. Can just test view at the remote clipboard. I can copy the text from here. For example, I open our YouTube link. So I copied the YouTube URL that we are streaming to, and then paste it here. So I can use it here, and then inside this I open IE. So copy pasting of text works, but now I don't want to do the setting for it right now. But yeah, you'll get the idea. So but copying of files doesn't. So it's not a full desktop experience that you have right now. Instead, you can use Azure file share and then copy files from here, and then basically copy the files inside it. But copying of files is also in the pipeline, and it's going to come soon. So coming back to the slides, you got the idea what we are doing. uh, But one of the issues with Bastion was that for every single virtual network that you have been using, you have to deploy a separate Azure Bastion host, and which was an issue because if you most of the case you will not have the similar kind of setup where you have a separate Bastion for different virtual machines, right? Instead, you have your VNet peering, and then it's associated to one Bastion. So we talk about hub and spoke. So this is going to be acting as a way there where this Azure Bastion will act as a hub and the other different virtual network will act as a spoke. So you can have this spoke VNet. This is a spoke VNet 2. You can have multiple virtual machines over there, multiple virtual machines over there, and then these might be paired, and then you can connect to it with easy this Bastion subnet. That's the idea behind it. And again, the idea would be same that you can connect to it with your browser using 443 through the internet, but all of these virtual networks who have been peered will be able to assess it. This service is still in preview, so you might encounter some of the issues, and then feel free to report it to Microsoft so that they fix it before they go to uh, the public preview or the public GA release. What what does it solve is basically you don't have to deploy the Azure Bastion to different networks. What is the roadmap? We have been talking about it, that you can download the full RDP client and SSH client and then work it in a native view concurrently in preview. So you can have this full session recording for auditing, which is brilliant idea if you ask me. It's actually a brilliant idea. You need to have a single sign-on with MFA enabled for Basting. If you're using the Azure AD credentials, we didn't connect it this much into Azure AD and then we use a local account, but you can use your Azure AD credential as well. And it can be further secured with MFA as well, so which makes your whole infrastructure much more secure as compared to what it is right now. Then you will have Azure AD PIM integration as well. What is PIM? PIM is privilege identity management. What does it mean? It means that you can have access to some resources, but only for a specific period of time. Confusing? And it's not. It's pretty straightforward. That you go to your Azure AD, you have your PIM enabled, and then I give the access for some people to have different roles in the infrastructure. For example, I can give a website contributor role for the people who are managing just the websites in it. I can give VM contributor role to the people who are only managing virtual machines, who only need the access to virtual machines. Like I have a support team, I only give them access to my logs and application insights to basically see what's happening. I don't give them the full access. So this is role-based access control. But what is PIM on top of role-based access control? PIM is basically we say that we they have the capability to do it, but they have to authenticate themselves and then leverage uh, and uplift their roles for specific period of time to assess those resources. That's the idea of PIM. What does it mean? It means basically if I have the access of a VM contributor, for example, it's not a permanent role that I have. I have to go into Azure AD and then activate that role for a specific period of time, and then you will be able to. I will be only able to assess this virtual machine for that specific period of time. Now you can set up this assess roles for specific time and the timing according to the criticality of the role. For example, the owner role or the global administrator in the Azure AD role is the most crucial one, right? It's the most vulnerable one. So you don't want to give it access to someone for like 5 days or 3 days. You say, okay, I am only giving the access for like 1 hour. So you can configure all that stuff, and then this is one of the most secured way of managing your infrastructure. I can have another session on its pretty cool feature from Azure AD. And Azure Bastion is coming up with this integration with PIM that you can only enable for a specific period of time to have this Azure AD Bastion. So you give this role, maybe there would be a role for Azure AD Bastion users. So only people who have this role will be able to access it. That would be the idea behind it, and it will be pretty nice to have it as well. The another issue is that we have this public IP address with this Azure Bastion, which is again an issue, right? So you can further put it inside site to site VPN, like we saw it in one of the our previous slides. That this is the way we do it right now. So you can have Azure Bastion, but without a public IP address, but your inside your network with a site to site or VPN or Express route. So with this, I come to the end of my session, and I'm open for questions now. If you have any question, please feel free to shoot me right now. I will be happy to answer them before I pass on the torch to Swami so that he can start his session. But you can see my credentials as well. So if you have some question, if it's basically works for you, if you have any issues going forward, just you can reach out to me and I will be happy to answer any question that you have. I am now open for questions, if and I'm going to wait for another 1 minute. If I don't see any questions over here, then I will basically pass on to Swami.
Hey Mohit, that was really wonderful session. Thank you so much for that. And let's see, let's wait for a minute to see if there are any queries. Hello, Prakash.
Hey Mohit, it was really good. I was watching this, and yeah, I think you covered pretty much what any user should know or the developer should know.
Yep.
Thanks for it.
Yeah. Hey guys, let me introduce Prakash. Prakash is also one of the organizer and in this meetup group, and he's also one of the speaker. And he's going to do his first session on 23rd Jan 2021. So we have piled up one big we have piled up one session, half day of full stack event. So where Ankit Sharma, Prakash, Mohit, and Saurabh Somani, they all are talking. So I'll give it to Prakash to introduce himself. Prakash,
Hey Swami,
hi.
Hey,
It was
Prakash.
nice.
hey, nice seeing you guys after a long time. Yeah, so I think that is good actually. So couple of not couple, but I think few of the MVPs in based out of Hyderabad kind of got together, and of course I think thanks Swami and I even Mohit for this what do you call new meetup that we got with Dotnet Foundation, and I think now we are kind of getting now that this is getting momentum. I can clearly see from the number of chats that Swami is putting into WhatsApp group. So it is really getting traction, and of course, I think signs are good that it will have some good session coming up in future. So yeah, I think without wasting much time, I think Swami, I will let you start, and we can connect later more on this. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to share my screen for real quick 1 minute. So, guys, I just want to let you know that this is the meetup group, and today's session is this one. We have planned half day of full stack in Jan and half day of .NET and AI and half day of Azure. We have planned till March. I mean, we have planned till entire 2021, and we have planned till entire 2021. And there are a lot of sessions which are going to come based on the request. We will do 1 or 2 sessions every month. So we have almost planned 15 sessions in 2021. So we want the users to be more interactive with us. So please go ahead and post your queries or your wish list there on that meetup group, so that will give us the vision, like, okay, where we should focus next and what is the user's choice. Okay, thanks so much, Mohit. It was wonderful session. I think let me start my session. Okay.
Yep.
Mm, hey guys, thank you so much um, for joining this session. My name is Vishwanath Swami. Let me share my screen. I'm sharing my screen, and Mohit, you're able to see my screen, isn't it?
Yeah, we are able to see your screen, but I think you should
Okay.
change the view as well, and then we move
Yeah.
us from it, and then you take over.
Thanks, Mohit. Hope you guys are able to see my screen. Thanks so much. So let's quickly go and spend 1 minute time to see what we are going to do. today. So this is the first session from our meetup group, .NET Learners Meetup group. And let me quickly walk you through this. The prerequisites. The prerequisites are tools like we need to have this .NET SDK 5 and Visual Studio 2019 Community Edition. You can use the Visual Studio code also, but some of the tooling which we get it through Visual Studio, you can't get it, but always you can use this command line to do. But there is very slight difference, except that you're not going to lose anything. Okay, so we need to have the postman, and we need to have the postman, and also we will be using this SQL Server. Anything 2016 or 19 or 2014 will do. We are not using any specific features, but anything from 2014 onwards should be good. So we need to have some basic knowledge on C# and a little bit of EF core and async await. At least you should know that what is async await. That should be good enough. But we are not getting deep into those async awaits things. But this is the first session. We are planning 15 sessions on Web API exclusively. So I'm sorry. I need to have. I'm sorry, guys. So we are planning 15 sessions of Web API. So this is the first session. The series will continue. Every month we will have 1 or 2 sessions. And assumptions is we should have created the database, and the scripts has been provisioned here. We have given the entire scripts, and the entire code is available here in this GitHub link. Sorry, I am posting this link here. You will have the link of this here. Let me post it. So the entire code is there, whichever is working version, but we are going to build everything from scratch. So let me show you the Azure Data Studio. This is one of the cross-platform tool which I really like very much, and we'll go and see this real quick. I'm opening this SQL Server, and let me show you this database. There are a few rows which is already there. So have given the scripts, all the scripts here. So you guys can happily go and grab that. The SQL scripts are there. So to create the database, or to create the tables, as well as to insert the data. So everything is provisioned in. So you guys can go and grab it. Let me open this, so it will be easy for us to see everything in one place instead of switching the windows. So this is the folder. So you have this scripts folder here. So you guys can go grab and deploy it to your local data store. So that's what we have that. The database is there. So today we will be doing this .NET 5 SDK and Web API. So in the next episode, next month, Jan, when we do, we'll see add one more method to this, and then integrate it with Blazor, Wasm, as well as Angular 11. But for this session, we'll stick to point 1 and 2. And all sessions will be hands-on. This is one session 1 of 15. And we'll have parking lots. If we are unable to answer any question because of time or something, we will definitely revisit. Please feel free to post your comments in the meetup group under this session, so that we will track it and we will get back to you either through email or through through the same uh, meetup group. Some of the concept we'll introduce and again we'll revisit because this is a long journey of 15 sessions, and there are multiple ways to do a thing, and we are doing one of the way. It's not that we are doing the this is the only way, whatever we do is the only way to do it, but to do a particular concept, there are multiple ways to do. Some of the things is a personal choice, or I know only that way. So it could be any of those. Only I know that way to do it, or that's my personal choice to do it. Okay, the focus is more on the concept and the demos are kept simple. I am a learner. Yes, I am definitely a learner. So let's start building it. The sessions will be pretty much hands-on. So we will build it from scratch. There will not be anything. So we'll build from scratch. Okay, so without any uh, without any further delay, let's go ahead and start. Okay, I'm going to create some new thing. We'll go step by step. We'll read the documentation and we'll see step by step whatever we are doing. First, we need to create a new web API. So I'm coming in, I'm creating a new web API and ASP.NET Core Web Application. And I'm just clicking on next. And let me select this as the project path where you want to have this. And let me take the project name same as this one, so that will help when we want to reuse some of this code from here. It will be helpful without we going and changing all those namespaces. Okay, so we have this project. Let's create this project and hits .NET Core and 5.0 and ASP.NET Core Web API. Let's keep this configure HTTPS and enable Open API support. We'll come to Docker and Kubernetes somewhere after 10th session or 8 or 10th session. At this point of time, we will park it. First, let's build our foundational blocks pretty strong, and then we go to working with this Docker, Kubernetes, and microservices. Let's park that towards the end. Okay, so I'm just going to create it, and in the next dialog um, it will show this. And what we will do is, that's the step one we have reached. So we just created a new web API. Okay, so the next thing what we will do is, let's try to understand the project structure. Okay, so whatever the new project which is coming up by default with this template will have the one controller that's called the weather forecast controller, and it will have the program CS, startup CS, app settings, and weather forecast. There's a model which will be used by this weather forecast controller. Let's revisit that. So that's the structure of default template. So we'll have this launch settings. We'll get into the details of launch settings shortly. But for the time being, if you see this project structure, it is the controllers folder, app settings, program.cs, start.cs, and one model file, weather forecast model. Okay, so let's get a little bit deep into this program.cs, startup.cs, what this configure service is, what this configure methods are. So let's get deep. I mean, let's touch upon this one. This is the first session. The focus, let's keep more focus on how to do and how to see the things coming from the SQL server, and then again we'll revisit this each one of this in future sessions too. So as any program, we know that the main method, it starts with the main method. So it creates the host builder, and the host builder is giving an host builder, and that we will build and run. Okay, so let's understand that in a minute. So I'm just removing the unnecessary usings, and I'm coming in here. I'm removing unnecessary usings here. So here also I just want to remove that unnecessary usings. Okay, that's cool. So let's go back to the let's go back to this, and let's see this one, the host. Okay, host is an object that encapsulates the app resources. So something like this: dependency injection, logging, configuration. But we will get into that. So as of now, we can see that this we will first call this create host builder that will give us a object of this uh, host builder, and then we'll call build and run methods on top of this. Let's get into the details, like what this builder settings are, what it does in next episodes, in future episodes. But as of now, let's understand that the two important pieces inside the main program is that first we'll call this create host builder, and on top of that we'll call this build and run. We'll get into the details little later. Okay, and if you see this program, so we are using this web builder, we are using this startup.cs. So what is this startup.cs? Is this program, and let's see this, what is happening in this startup.cs. So this is a this is a file which it executes first. So that's part of here we are hooking up here in this program.cs. So the startup object is this startup class. So what do we have in this startup class? So if you see this I configuration which is getting injected, this is part of the dependency injection. We'll see, we'll get into the details of what this dependency injection is in future episodes. But today we will understand little bit detail how this dependency injection happens and what is happening, how does this who is holding all these containers, and how are we getting all these dependencies. We'll understand that in a moment shortly. Okay, and if you see that there are two important methods inside this apart from this constructor. So we have this configure services, and we have this configure method. So if you see this the configure services is this dependency injection container. So all these dependencies are injected into this container. And then what is this configure method? The configure method is where we configure the HTTP request pipeline. As of now, understand that these are set of tasks which are getting executed. Just for understanding, we'll come and we'll get deep into that in future episodes. Let's understand that. So each of this is a middleware which gets executed. So one by one it gets executed. Let's get into this middleware, what it is middleware, how it gets executed, how it passes control to the next middleware. We'll come and see that in the future episode. But understand that it one thing, this configures, the configure services will configure all this dependencies. Service container will have the dependencies here, and the configure is the HTTP pipeline, how this request will get executed and how the response will come back. So we'll see that in future episode. But that's about this startup program, and that about the startup. And let's see two other important files. There is something known as the launch setting files. So we'll see this here. If you come this, the launch setting files, you can see this, there are two profiles here. So one is IIS Express, one is project name. So if you select this drop down over here, so the profiles which are here, like IIS Express is this one, and this is college.web API is the project name, is this one. So either you can execute it many different ways, but as of now we have two profiles. One is that we are executing using the IIS Express, another one is using the Kestrel. We'll see that in a moment, how the things will work. We'll come and revisit that. An important piece is what is the launch URL. That means when you open up this application, what is the first page what is the first route it goes and hits. That's the first thing. And the next thing is app settings file. So inside this app setting file, you will have all this configuration. Like if you can correlate this with the web config file. Okay, it's a configuration file where you can keep all this configuration. Okay, for the developmental you will keep it, but there are different ways we will use in future using the Azure Key Vault, and a lot of other mechanisms are there which we will see that from future episodes onwards. But as of now, it is this one. So that's pretty much the project structure walkthrough. So what is this project structure and what all those individual files. So how do we execute it? So how do we execute is when you go and click on this, when you go and click on this IIS Express, this will launch the Swagger UI. We'll come back and we'll discuss what the Swagger UI is, but you can see that it launches this one. So we can come in here and we can click on try it out and click on execute. Once you click on execute, you can see this. The information is coming. The same thing, what we can do is we can take this URL and come back to the any of your favorite browsers, and you can go and execute it. You can see this output, or else you can go to this Postman. You can use Postman, and there are other tools also like curl, and different people will use different tools. And at least for today we'll see a couple of things: how to test it with the browser, how to test it with Postman, and how to verify things using the Swagger UI. So that's the this one about the partial one. That's point this and this we are discussing at this point of time. So now when you're executing this in IIS Express, so we have to go and if you want to verify something, what is happening, either you need to get into this one or some other tools are there. We need to go and check there, and we don't know what is happening, which application is being executed, and what is the port number and other things. We don't know much of those details. So one small thing is we will use this college web API. That means we are telling that we want to execute it using the Kestrel server, and I just click on this Kestrel. So that launches this a window. At least it gives a little bit more information than previously when it was executing in IIS Express. At least we know that, okay, so the application is listening on 5000. We know that definitely we were seeing this, but with HTTPS you can navigate this route, and HTTP we can route this way, and what is the content route path, everything is little, at least little bit more information. And again we will dig deeper into that, but just to showcase the power, I am going to do some changes over here, and I'm not going to, again I'll revert it back just to showcase the power. We'll come and revisit in future session, like what is the like if you see this now, it clearly we know that more information is being given out to the console, where we can only, we have to use it in developmental, where we want to debug something or understand more what is happening and what is the request we sent it and what was the output for that, and it's giving more information. So we will dig all into those information in future, but as of now just understand the difference. What is the advantage of using Kestrel? It's also the cross platform web server, so we have advantage of using this Kestrel server. Okay, so that being said, we have covered Open API, and we saw that IIS Express as well as the Kestrel. We'll spend 1 minute time on the launch settings also. So let's assume that it's coming to it is coming to this one. Always it is coming to the Swagger, and I'm not interested to look into that Kestrel. Instead I want to get my weather forecast. So all I can do is I can, there are, again I was telling, as I was mentioning previously, there are multiple ways to do it, and one of the way I do it is because that's my personal choice, or that's what I know how to do it. So you can do this with here also, but I prefer mostly, I mean, this is my personal choice. Okay, I come in here and I put this weather forecast, and now if I execute it, so if I execute it now, instead of going to the Swagger, it comes and it executes the weather forecast. Now what we can do is we can, if you want to go and see this Swagger, you can go and execute this and Swagger separately, you can see that. I mean, suppose if we the use case, or if you are going, you're writing some piece of code and want to quickly check directly that particular endpoint, instead of going through Swagger and click on that and see this, I can test the same endpoint from Swagger also. All I need to do is first it will come to the Swagger UI, then I need to click on this and click on try it out and click on execute, and it is coming and giving me the output. I definitely can do this. But if I'm writing or doing some changes and I directly want to go and check this particular endpoint, so definitely this is equally important. But when your vision is on one specific endpoint and you want to do a quick test it and modifying it, in that case you can go and come and modify this, so that instead of coming and checking this one, so if you are executing here, we modified it only for this launch URL, we modified it for Kestrel server. Again, if you execute it in IIS Express, that will launch the Swagger UI. So anytime you want to be consistent, I would prefer that place both at the same place. What you want to do, either Swagger or this one, or if your use case is mix, you can use that. You want to execute this Swagger when it is on IIS Express, and execute weather forecast or one particular endpoint when you are using the Kestrel server. Okay, that's pretty good. So we covered a little bit of deep knowledge on launch settings too. That's pretty good. Let's go to the next point. Let's build one processes controller. Okay, just to try and understand this, what is happening. Uh, how do we build a processes controller which will go and retrieve the content from SQL Server? Okay, so now what I'm doing is I'm right mouse clicking on this controller, add. I'm saying this controller, and I go and select this web API empty controller. And as of today, we are focusing on the database first. It's not the code first approach in EF Core, but we'll dig deeper into this code first approach and do the migrations, EF Core, a little bit of depth on EF Core, that after 5 sessions. But in the first 5 to 6 sessions, let's build the fundamentals on how to retrieve content, how to add content, how to modify content, how to delete content. We'll get good hold on the CRUD operations, and in between, how while building this one, how can we integrate these things with the Angular 11 UI as well as the Blazor WASM UI, like full stack. Whatever we are doing is 15 sessions of web API. Along with that, lot of full stack EF core, a lot of things are going to come. So let's take a baby step approach. Now if you see, there is a little bit of difference is there. Let's understand that. So while doing this, there'll be a lot of things I wantedly create an error and then I'll fix it, just so that we understand things better. In one of the demo, we'll do that. Now we went to weather forecast. Now let's understand what is happening here. If you see this, when you are going and hitting the controller, we'll hit this weather controller. By default, it knows that it has to come and hit this controller. And what is the action method it is selecting? If you don't give anything, it goes and selects the get action method. That's the first action method, it gets executed. So similarly, when we come to this professors, what is this professors? The professors is a controller, and we don't have any method at this point of time here. So what we can do is, let's go and grab this guy real quick from here to here, and let's change it. Okay, I just want to send some string instead of this entire string. Let's start with hello world, because anything we are doing without hello world, it's not complete. Return hello web API. Okay, hello web API. So let's go and see, are we able to hit the processes controller? So whatever we are doing is just we are touching on that concept. We'll get into the details from session 2. So every month there'll be one separate series for this. So let's go to professors. So when you're seeing that, it's not coming, but whereas this one, the weather forecast controller, when we went and hit this, it was able to give this, it was able to hit the get action method, but whereas professors it's not able to. So let's come back and see that why it is not happening. So because if you see this, the route which will go and hit this get method, it has to have this API slash controller. Controller means this portion, professors. So let's come back over here and let's type this API. So it is going and giving the endpoint. It is hitting that endpoint. So now if you see this, the weather forecast, it doesn't have API, and the professor's controller, it has got API. So let's make the unification. Let's have a unified way to access. So just we'll discuss about the versioning. I just want to keep it like API slash v1, and I want to do the same thing to this guy also, so that I don't have to go and change it until unless there is a real need of changing something. At this point of time, if I am doing that, I need to come back here and say API slash v1, and let me copy that and let me add this. So let's go and execute this again, and we will see this. It is perfectly executing it. And if I come in and change the professors, it's giving the professors. So now we have created a unified way to access the routes. We'll discuss about that shortly. Okay, one more, we'll do small enhancements. One more thing is, what we will do is we'll go and create these folders. We'll go and create this folders core, and we'll go and create one folder called core. In future, we'll go and create, I mean, in the next session, in Jan's session, what we will do is we'll go and create the same application with the layered architecture. So we'll have different layers, one for the application core, and one for the data store persistence, and one for the business logic layer. We'll move these pieces into different libraries. So we'll showcase the reusability, and then we'll add an extra method. Today's episode, we are adding the get all method. In the future, we'll add get by ID also. Okay. So now that we have added this, so what we will do is we'll move this guy into that folder, so that if you see, the web API should focus only on the controllers, how it has to expose the controller, how it has to expose the endpoints. It has to focus only on that, not on the models and entities. We'll come back and discuss deep on that in future. Okay. So now that we have changed its name to showcase the structure, now this will not work. When we come back over here, you see that there'll be a red squiggly on this, and do a control dot and just add it. Okay. So that goes and adds this one. And one of the way to, there are multiple ways, I'll show you one of the way to have this parameterized constructor which is having the dependency injection. I'll show you real quick. So just press alt enter and click on this generate constructor, and select that whatever the read only property which you want to have the injection, dependency injection, and add null check and click on OK. So you can see that now this constructor has been automatically generated by the Visual Studio ID, and it has got extra null checks and argument exceptions also. Okay, this is one of the tip. We'll learn a lot of tips and tricks while going in. So let's quickly check and execute this. So we'll take baby steps to do this one, but we'll learn a lot of things in this entire series. So you see that everything is working. That's perfect. So now what we will do is, as you know, this separation of concerns, there are a lot of other things are there. Let's come and learn about that in future. But at least if you want to see the separation, because all the things which are core or belongs to multiple layers of an application, we will place it inside core. So mostly what will be there inside core is, inside core, something which is common, like a constants or some common files and entities, models, and interfaces that will be under common. and anything related to the data store will be in the data access layer. So where you will have the persistence and the data access layer, and something in the business logic layer will have something. So we'll place this in different folders. Again, we'll create those as a libraries in future. So we have modified that. Now you can see this action return types. Now we'll come and we'll learn about this action return types in depth in future. But at least as we were talking, let's see one of the point, like if you see this existing things at this point of time, we are returning this enumerable of weather forecast. That means we are returning some specific type out of this. And you can see this process controller, we are returning again a specific type. So that's one of the way we can give the, we can send out the output of from this API. We'll come and we'll look into other ways which we can send it, but let's wait for that in the session 2. Okay, session 1 will first start understanding the all the moving pieces and make the things work. So our focus will be on that one. So now what we will do is we will create two entities, one for the professors and one for the students. So we can look into the starter folder, which is there over here. So you can come in here. I just given that under the documentation, the starters folder is here. So you guys can go back to this speaker series, and under the documentation, you will have this starter files. So you can go and access all these things. So I'm just keeping there. Okay, let's come back over here. So just to speed up, what we will do is we'll come in and I'll copy this startup from startup. I will come in here and drop it inside the entities folder. Okay, so now let's come back over here and see what those are. So you can see this, there is one file called professor. It has got professor ID, name, date of joining teachers, and some of these things will come and we'll discuss about the EF core stuff little later. But for us to get going, we'll understand that this is an entity class, and that entity class is exactly matching with the structure of this tables inside the data store. So one is this professors. You can see this. This is matching with this professors, and the other one is matching with the student. So always we should split the DTO outside. So whenever we are sending anything outside the web API, it should always be the DTO. But for today, we will start with the entities. But in future sessions, when we are working, we'll retrieve the content from web API. When it goes to the data store, we'll use the entities to go get communicate with the data store. But when we are sending it out, we will take the information from these entities and do a mapping into the DTO and then send those DTO out. So we'll do that in future session. But as of today, understand that this is one of the way. And then the next piece, what we need is we need the constants. And again, this is one of the good practice to have the constant. So what is there inside this constant is uh, we have to access the connection strings. So yeah, we are yet to come and update the connection strings, but understand that we have this connection strings. So instead of hard coding this literal connection string, again we need to go and check that where all the places we have used the connection string, and we have to go and modify that. Suppose if I change the connection string in app settings, so if I'm using that in two different places, I need to find out those two different places, go and modify. But if I use this as a constant, so all I will be using is this constant. Even if I'm using it 100 different places, when I change the app settings, all I have to do is come and modify that at one different places. If you change this, then you have to go and struggle, go and change in all 100 different places. But we are trying to do minimize the changes, okay, as far as possible. Okay, that being said, we are good with our application core or all the common concerns across different layers. Okay, now that being said, what we will do is we will create a DAL layer. Go ahead and create data access layer. And the next thing what we will do is inside this DAL layer, we'll create a we'll create a file folder called persistence, and we'll create a folder called persistence, and we'll hold on. Then what we will do is we verified that we will create this we have to create this file inside that persistent folder. Okay, right mouse click and add this file. That's for the DB context. And before proceeding any further, we have to go and grab the grab this SQL server. So let's go and use this NuGet package and click on browse and Microsoft dot entity framework core dot SQL server. So select this, it's 5.1. Go ahead and install and click on OK and click on accept. So that will install this package here. Perfect. So it has installed that package. So inside this DB context, so it's a pretty simple DB context. Let's check that. We have created a SQL DB context, and we are exposing two of the DB sets. So if you see that the inside the DB set, whatever we are mentioning, the professor and student, those are the entities which we have defined here. And what are these professors and students? The professors and students are one on one with the table names. So you can see the plural names, professors and students. Those names should exactly match. Okay, so that's a DB context. So it's just a simple DB context. We have exposing two DB sets. The next thing what we have to do is we will go ahead and create this DAL. We'll discuss about this little um, in a moment. So I'm going to create one more class, which I am calling it as Professor SQL DAL. And what are we doing in this Professor SQL DAL? Uh, what are we going to do in this Professor SQL DAL? We'll see that in a moment. So if you see that in this Professor SQL DAL, we have dependencies on SQL DB context and iLogger. We'll understand the dependencies little later, but as of now, understand that we have these two dependencies, and we have only one method. And what is this method? This method, we are telling that get all professors, and we are telling that it is going to return the IEnumerable of professors. That means one or more professor out. So here we are doing a await of SQL DB context, the professor DB set. Inside that, we are asking to include the students, and we are converting to two list, and we did the configure await, and we are returning that professors. So that's what is happening. And because let's keep this momentum, let's make the things work, and again we'll start revisiting one by one concept, and we'll see the EF core. As I was mentioning multiple times throughout this session, there are 15 episodes, and this is the first session. And the next big piece what we need to add is we need to add the business logic layer. So let's go and add this business logic layer folder. I will add this business logic layer folder, and here I'm going to add this professors DLL. And what are we doing in this professors DLL is we are consuming the professor DAL. I'll come with this dependency layer in a moment. So here what are we doing is again we have this two dependencies. One is the professor data access layer and the logger, and this is a parameterized constructor. Both these things are getting dependency injected, and we have this get all professors, and that guy is calling this DAL layer, and we are returning all professors to the caller. So that's this one. So let's verify, did we follow all the steps in this one? So we have created the entities, we have added the NuGet package, and we did the constant file, and then we did this created the SQL DB context, we created the DAL too. Okay, we created the professors also. Now we need to go and modify this professors controller. so that it will be, let me bring it down just before. Yeah, it makes sense. First you need to create this. It makes sense, the order is good. So we have to create the entities, we have to do the common, and then we will add the NuGet package, and then we'll create the DB context and the DAL and the SQL. Now is the processes controller. Now what we have to do is we need to come and modify the processes controller so that it has to invoke the business logic layer method. So let's go to the controller, and inside this controller, let me bring in this small piece, and then we'll do this. So I'm going to modify this. You can see that it was get. Now we are returning the I action result. So this quickly it shows. So I'm going to bring in this. Okay, NuGet package. And now other things what we will do is we will bring in these two dependencies. And what all the things which we are doing today is the bad way to code it. That means we should never depend on the concrete implementation, but against the rules we are doing, we are depending on the concrete implementation. In the next episode we'll have interfaces, and everything, the dependency injection will happen through the interfaces. So just bear with me for one episode. In the next session we'll wipe off our mistakes and we'll make our lives better. So as I was mentioning, we have two of those dependencies. All you have to do is alt enter and then generate constructor and add null checks over here and click on OK. So we have a beautiful constructor over here. So we don't need to sweat at all. So these are some of the tips. So here we are getting in, we are getting in this, let me remove this unnecessary usings. If at all there are unnecessary usings, let me go and remove throughout the application. I hate having unnecessary usings somewhere. At all the places, I don't like that. So there are no usings. Let's check in entities, either in the professors or okay, all the places are, I think it's all good. Let's check this one. Do we need, or is there anything which can, no, everything is good. So we don't have any unnecessary usings throughout the application. Cool, that's good. So let's come back real quick to this processes controller, and we have these two dependencies. What happens is, now let's understand the dependency injection for 1 minute, and then we will see that in action. Okay, so what happens is, if you see this, the processes controller, when you go and hit the endpoint, so that route will come and hit this endpoint. So when it is hitting this endpoint, before hitting this endpoint, it has to create this instance. So to create this instance, it depends on two things. One is iLogger, one is iProfessor SQL BLL. So now what it will do is it will go and check the SQL BLL. So to create this instance of the SQL BLL, again it depends logger and SQL DAL. So it will come back to the SQL DAL and check that, hey, can I create your instance? Oh, to create your instance, I need the SQL DB context and logger. So logger is the one of the dependencies which comes out of the box, which we will see that action in few minutes, and then it identifies that it has to go and talk to the SQL DB context. So the DB context, it comes and it sees this here. It has got a parameterized constructor, but it is not having any dependencies. Like if you see the DAL, it has got, it is getting injected here. These dependencies are getting injected in the constructor. Here we have a parameterized constructor, but it is not getting any dependency injection, is not happening. So if you see, out of these four people, the last man standing without any dependency injection is the SQL DB context. So while while the flow is hitting this way, it first checks the controller, then it goes to the business logic layer, then it goes to the data access layer, then it goes to the SQL DB context. That's where it finds that it doesn't have any dependency. First it creates this dependency and gives back to the DAL. DAL gets created and it gives itself to the SQL BAL, and the BAL gets created and that's getting injected in the controller, and now it goes and invokes the method from controller all the way to the DAL and the DB context, and it comes. We'll see that in action. Just bear with me for 2 minutes. We'll see everything in front of our eyes. The next thing what we have to do is we need to bring in the app settings. So let's go grab this app settings, and I am I am pasting this app settings over here. So if you see that app settings is there, I'm hitting my local DB context. So that's it. It's that is done. So the other thing is we have this SQL credentials. Ensure that the SQL credentials are correct. If not, again, we have to spend a lot of time wasting, and then we need to go and work on the configure service. So what do we do in the configure service? Everything I have given in the starter files, guys. So whatever I'm doing, you guys will have everything here in the starter files, right? So if you come to the starter files, everything is here. So let's go grab this 3 lines, and we will see what is happening. To go to the startup, and here in this configure. Okay, so before getting any deeper, at least we'll understand, we'll touch upon, let's do an introduction to routing. We'll come and we'll discuss deep on the routing in the future sessions, but at least for today, we need to understand what is routing and other things. So just bear with me for a moment. We have configured everything. Let's build. Uh, is it building everything? So let's wait on that. It is okay, all is well, it's building. So the next thing what we will do is we'll just get ourselves introduced to routing. So if you see this, there are the routing. One second. Okay, so route is a URL pattern that is matched to a handler or an endpoint. So that's what is routing. That means when we go and hit this route, um, fully qualified domain name slash some endpoint. So it is going and matching a particular controller and a method. Like if you see this one, localhost slash API slash v1 slash professor. So that means it is going and mapping itself to professor's controller. In that, it is going and hitting the get method. So that is called the routing. So we'll again discuss in deep what does routing means. Now if you touch base upon this for today, because we are working with this controllers, where is that controller? Yeah, so for today we are working with this controllers. So let's understand a bit about it, and again we'll revisit that. So routing has been configured here. Two important things inside this configure method is, so you can see this use routing and use endpoint. So what does this use routing does? So use routing adds the route matching middleware pipeline, so that when you give the URL, it matches that, okay, for this particular route, this is the endpoint it has to hit. And use endpoints at the endpoint execution middleware pipeline. So the first use routing is identifying which method it has to execute. Use endpoint is the execution middleware. Okay, so those are the two important points we have to understand. So this is for identification. So I will write that over here. So if you see this under this one, so this is for routing identification, and this is for the attribute based routing. We'll come back and we'll discuss how many types of routings are there, what is conventional based routing, what is attribute routing in future sessions. But as of now, understand that we are working with attributes based routing. Okay, so now that we are having all, so let's start placing the debuggers. So first I'll place one debugger here to understand the dependency injection, and the next debugger, let me go back, I will add it over here so that we'll save some time. I'll remove that, and next thing is I'll place it over here, tal, and next is this business logic layer. Let me place it over here, and next is the controller, so let me place it over here. Okay, and before doing all, I need to go to this startup, and I will place the debugger over here. Let's see that what is dependency injection and how it goes through. And see this, it is like you have an ATM card. That means whenever you are asking a dependency injection here, any dependencies, it's like you have an ATM card. Now you go and insert an ATM card inside a ATM machine and try to withdraw money. The money will come out only if you have deposited it. If not, you will not get the money. Transaction will get declined. So that's what is the dependency injection. So at this point of time, if you go and select this Shift F9 and see that there are 79 dependencies. If you expand this, and we have seen that logger at a lot of places. So you see this iLogger. So this is one of the dependencies which comes out of the box. So that's the reason at every place you see this logger iLogger dependencies. This is the guy who's going to get injected there. Now remember that it was 79 I'm adding this our SQL DB. Now I do a Shift F9, 180 plus 3. That means last three things which has last three which has been added over here is this one. You can go and check this here. See this, the DB context options, the DB context. It's all coming from uh, our persistence. You can see this when you mouse over. So these three dependencies has been added. Now again we are
Swami, there is some issue in the audio.
Swami, we are not able to hear you.
Can you check your mic? Maybe connection got loosened or something.
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So we've all-
Hello. So, is my voice audible now, Mohit?
Yep, you're audible.
I'm audible. Okay, cool
Yep.
then. So let me continue. So, at what point did you guys lose me? Let me explain those couple of points. Let me explain those couple of points again. Uh, okay. Vignesh, hello. Okay, so I hope you guys have seen that dependency injection, but let me reiterate that. Okay, so when we do when we do the dependency injection container, so what it will do is it will first come and create that which doesn't have any dependencies, and then it will take it from there. So let's come back over here and let's see that again in action. So let me place it over here. So I execute this. The first thing, the configure service is the one where it creates the service container, dependency injection container. So if you see this dependency injection container, so right mouse click on that and go to this quick watch. When you do a quick watch, there are 79 dependencies. And if you expand that, iLogger is one of the dependencies. So this dependency comes out of the box. So out of 79, when I add this controllers and when I add this swagger, now if you see that how many dependencies are there, it is 180 dependencies. So the add controller and add swagger, that's adding those many dependencies. Add two more dependencies. So those dependencies should get added, and we can check that real quick. Getting into this one, you see this 185, it was 80, and we added 5 of our application dependencies. So few of the dependencies, understand that few of the dependencies will come out of the box. Few of the application dependencies you have to add it. Like if you see the SQL DAL and SQL BAL. Okay, that's the thing. Now when you go and see to instantiate this professors, when I go and click it, so what does it do is it first comes and creates the SQL DAL because it doesn't have any other dependencies. So okay, So what happened is, if you see that the SQL DB context has been constructed and it is being given to the SQL DAL. So now I remove this and then go to SQL DAL. Now SQL DAL has been properly constructed and it is given to the BAL. If you see this BAL, the DAL has been properly constructed. Now if I come to the controller, if you see this BAL, the BAL's dependency is DAL and DAL's dependency is the DB context. If you expand that, now you see this controller has got a dependency of the BLL, and the BLL depends upon the DAL, DAL depends upon the DB context. So that's how it goes and instantiates the create instance of the last man standing who doesn't have any dependencies. It comes the reverse way. When it goes and hits the content, it from controller it goes to the business logic layer, to data access layer, to the DB context, and it retrieves back. So the same thing we can see, we can execute the same using the Swagger. Now we can do the same thing. I can come to professor's endpoint. It is giving me the content. Yeah, Manish Agarwal, Mithun Nair, Scott Rudy, Shiva Sai, Matthew Phillips, and Muhammad Azim. So all these guys we can see. Can come back to the Swagger, click on this, click on try it, and execute it. Now you can see this, all the records which we have seen, that Muhammad Aziz, Matthew Phillips, and Shiva, all these people are here. And you can see the same, you can see it uh, from the postman also. Okay, so this is the first session, guys. So we have 14 more sessions to go, where we'll learn this to the core, and we will see that will create this. Next episode will be what do we have next. So next is the next is we will create this same application with the layered architecture, and we'll add one more endpoint, and then we will integrate that with the Angular 11 as well as the Blazor, and then one more session we'll add one more method and extend the extend this application and the UI. So we'll be doing all those things. Okay. So let me add Prakash and uh, hey guys, Mohit. Hey
Sorry, I was on
Prakash.
mute.
Okay. So that's it from my side. So any queries do we have? No, isn't it?
Please feel free to post your questions in the comment sections in the chat. We'll be happy to address them. And if you see that you can go through this video again to YouTube. And if you have any other questions between me and Swami, feel free to reach out to us. We'll be happy to answer any question. Let's wait for a minute to see if anyone has any question before we do the closing ceremony.
Hey guys, please go ahead and register for the next event, which is on 23rd Jan. That is half day of full stack application development. So you have four speakers. They're bringing in lots of knowledge from the full stack perspective. And then the second session of this will be maybe on Jan 30th or something, because this web API series will be separate track, and the half day series will be the separate track. So there are a lot of things, full sessions. I mean, 1 or 2 sessions every month. Prakash sir, to you, anything to add from your side?
No, I think you pretty much covered, Swami. Yeah. So, guys, I think this is a new platform that we have, I would say, triggered in Hyderabad, and we'll keep having sessions that are relevant and that you care for, and we'll have a speaker from most of the, like, of course you can see some of us, but we can also invite based on the need basis from other communities, right? So we have good networking also. Some of us know some very good speakers, so based on the requirement, based on the topic that you wish to kind of be talk on that topic, so we can certainly plan. So more will come on this platform. So Stay tuned.
I saw one comment from one of the attendees that how they can basically become a presenter and how can they conduct a session on themselves. So I think it's we have open for that as well. So we have an open community and we appreciate people joining and share their knowledge with the community. So feel free to reach out to any one of us and we'll be happy to schedule you for the next events. Please share what you want to share about the topic and the description, and we'll be there to support you in all possible ways.
Yeah, please
Correct.
register yourself to the Meetup group where you can individually reach Prakash, Mohit, or me, or any one of our organizers, and just go ahead and direct register yourself and post a comment, and we will reply back to your comment. And as Mohit told, we will see that how best we can provision you. Prakash, sab, you were telling something. I'm sorry.
No, I think you covered actually. So we look for always look for good speakers on any topic, right? So some of us grown with that area. Somebody else kind of asked us to do that same something similar, and now you see in all of us in front of you. So this is how the community grows. So of course we love to hear some of the attendees to become speakers, and of course at one day MVPs. So it's all how this evolves right over time. So
Yep.
of course
Yeah,
please reach out to us, and we should be able to help you.
yeah. Let me share my experience. Mohit and Prakash, these people are my guru. And they will deny, but they are my gurus because they have introduced me to this community service and they have given me an opportunity to be a speaker. So I literally thank them both. I mean, it is 5 or 6 years ago. I don't remember that.
I think it
Swami,
was.
you are a, you are a, all gate goes to you. We were just, at least I can say it's about myself. I was just facilitator or mediator. That's it, and nothing more. So
Yeah.
it's all your hard work, and this is how it goes, right? Opportunity can be given to bunch of people, but there will be few people who will grab those opportunity and move further.
Yep.
So I think it's all your hard work, Swami.
Thanks, Mohit and Prakash Saab. So, guys, please register to this meetup group and please be verbose and start communicating with us.
So, Swami, we have a question from Manik. Where
Uh-huh.
I'm not sure if you covered it in your session or not, but I am going to reiterate his question to make sure that we have an answer for it. So,
Okay.
so Manik is asking that what is the widely used industry practices in securing these web APIs? How can we secure these web APIs?
Oh, like is he talking? Okay, there are multiple ways. Like if you see some security perspective, it is a vast thing. So see, couple of things I'll tell you. So the back end or middle tier, we call it as a middle tier or back end. This goes and hosted in few servers. Let's assume I'm hosting this in two servers, and will not give this endpoint directly to any of the end user or the client. That's a first level. And what we will do is we will have a firewall in between these two servers where we host it. Okay, that's a second level security. And then we'll have a authentication, some token mechanism or a claims based mechanism. So until the third method is, until and unless you give these tokens or the claims, you will not, your call will not get invoked. Okay. And the fourth level is you will give this API gateway. You don't directly give access to the middle tier. So first thing is you will host the middle tier. You will not give its endpoint to anyone. Second is you'll have a firewall in between. Third is GAWT token or a claims-based authentication. Fourth is you will have this API gateway, and inside the API gateway also you will have the rate limiting. That means from one IP you can't hit 10 calls within 1 second or 2 seconds, which is unrealistic. So we'll have those kind of mechanisms and see that DDoS protection, DOS protection, a lot of things. I mean, if you speak about security, that itself is an entire world. So we will cover few of those things in, as I was mentioning, apart from our half day series and rest of the series. This web API series is a separate track, which will every month there will be one session for this web API track. That means we do a web API and see how we can integrate with the front end spa application, single page application, and then we do a little bit of build pipeline, release pipeline, EF core, data migrations, and deployment, monitoring. A lot of things will come in, but we'll take one by one. Since this security is also built in, so that's going to come. How do you do authentication using your one of the authentication, like a third party authentication or a OAuth or JWT token authentication? It's coming in maybe 6 or 7 sessions down the line, Mohit.
Yep.
We
I'm
planned it.
I'm personally a big fan of security, and I will be like more than happy to take anything on security. So if you have any topics that you want us to cover, we'll be happy to cover those topics as well for you.
Sure.
Like personally, if you think we need a detailed sessions on securing web APIs, I will be happy to do it. Swami will be happy to do it as well. So
Yeah.
we have open with the agenda, we have open with the topics. So we are here to share with you what we know. We are here to help you out. So if you have any demand, anything that you want to learn, please feel free to share with us, and we are going to work on it to incorporate those sessions as quickly as possible in our agendas.
Yes, guys. So if we have any other questions, we will address it. Else, I think we can close this call, Mohit.
Yep, I think we are good to go. Thank you. I just want to take this opportunity to thank you, Swami, for organizing each and every thing of here. I think me and Prakash didn't spend that much of energy or effort to put together this group, and you are the superhero behind this too, who pulled it on his shoulder and then successfully delivered the first event. So kudos to you, Swami, and special thanks to all the other organizers that we have in the team as well. We have
Yeah.
a big bunch of organizers who are working behind the scenes, who are not front
And
in on the camera, but they're equally important, and they
yeah.
are and be without them this wouldn't have been possible. So at least I think
Seriously.
all of you, I think Swami can mention all the names, and then
Yeah.
we say that they are the real superheroes behind the scene who work
Seriously.
behind the scene to make sure.
Seriously. We have Ankit Sharma is a MVP and a very well-known speaker and author of few books. And he did a lot of work behind the scenes. And we have Yash Agarwal is one of our organizer. He did his part. And we have Manish Agarwal. He did his part. And Mohit is one of our organizers. He did speaking and his part, and
Nothing else.
Prakash is there. Oh, you did your part, Mohit. I'm seriously, I'm telling. And Prakash is there. So we have a lot of organizers, and most of them are MVPs and big time speakers too. And Mohit and we are friends since past 6 7 years, I'm sure on that.
More than
And
7 years, I know.
more than 7 years we're friends. And again, almost every month you will see Ankit, Mohit, Prakash, and me, Yash Agarwal, and Manish Agarwal talking in this. And apart from that, we will be inviting other speakers who are known, or anyone who wants to be the first time speaker. They are also very welcome in our community. And we don't stop anyone coming and talking, want to talk for the next month, or next month, or every month, as we are having 1 or 2 sessions. Anyone wants to do a repeat speaker, we are more than happy to welcome them. So let's take it forward. Please register yourself to the Meetup group and all the events which are coming in. Also, please feel free to subscribe to this channel so that you get notified whenever new videos are getting posted. Thanks, Mohit, for joining from Germany. What's the local time now?
It's close to 1 p.m.
Okay, cool then. So it's 5:17 p.m. here in India. So thanks so much, Mohit. See you next month, Jan 23rd.
See you guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.